All right, well, welcome everybody. It's uh, time to get rolling, and I'm Greg, and I'm the owner of Caring Sunshine. Kelsey's with us. Actually in Utah today. We have a warehouse in Utah and a house here, and it's one of our favorite places to be. So I'm happy to be here. Kelsey is in the Utah airport. She's flying home early, and then Dr. Shannyn is in Texas, correct? Today?
I am.
Yep. And so we were just talking for the last few minutes. We all are dealing with life, to put it mildly. Life is going on. In my case, is my mother. My mother's going through some really tough times. She's got advanced dementia. I've written about it some in the newsletter, and so that's not going well. Anyway, life happens.
Yep, for me,
So
it's my mom too.
yeah, it's
Life,
go ahead.
life happens, right?
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
wasn't going to say this, but since you just said you're in the hospital right now, so
I
if
am.
if you hear medical type stuff, that's what's going on there with
Well,
your.
fortunately, they have a conference room, so.
Okay, well, good. All right, well, we're talking about energy today. I have questions that you guys have submitted. We're going to try to get to as many as we can, and we may get to an awful lot of them. They're sort of all over the place in terms of they're very diverse. We're going to try to get through as many of them as we can. But before we do that, I want to start by saying welcome, and I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Shannyn, and she's going to start and just give us overall. Before we get started, the questions, she's going to give us her overall thoughts about energy.
Great. Yeah, so energy is our topic today. And when I think about energy, I'm always trying to think like, is somebody not making the energy or are they using it somewhere else that they're not feeling it? So when they tell me that they have no energy, that's the kind of question that runs through my mind. Well, are we making it properly or do we have problems over there or are we actually using it up? So something that comes up a lot with energy is adrenal fatigue or adrenal stress, and there's different levels of that. And there's ways to test for that. And there's a number of things that can really weigh on adrenals. And so that can be things like stress, chronic disease, thyroid has a big connection, hormonal shifts. So being able to support those adrenals while they're going through changes, whether they're hormonal or putting out lots of stress hormones, or lipid changes, if we have cholesterol changes, that can affect hormones, which also can affect energy. So those are things that I think of when you think about adrenal fatigue, which is a big deal because we are pretty stressed out in America. There's lots of things going on, and we push ourselves and we're ruminating about it. We have trouble sleeping. So those are all things that we try to look at. When it comes to sleep, we're looking for sleep apnea. We're looking for making sure that we are being moderate on caffeine and alcohol. Those can definitely affect energy. And then hygiene, just making sure that we're getting light as soon as we wake up and dimming the lights in the evening. The sleep hygiene practices can be really powerful for some patients. If we go a long time with having sleep trouble, it may not seem as effective. And so if you've had sleep problems for a long time, those simple shifts or simple tasks may not be real effective right away. And that's where sleep trackers can come in, because a lot of times people think that they're sleeping well and they may not be, or they're tired but they think they're sleeping well, and other times patients think they're sleeping awful. And so getting a sleep tracker and helping to understand where the disproportion is can be really helpful. So Fitbit is not that expensive. It runs like $100 and that can do an adequate job. The Aura Ring does a really good job, the Apple Watch, and I know there's other systems out there, but those are kind of some of the most common ones that help us look at the sleep cycle and whether we're getting REM sleep, whether we're awake a lot. It just helps us identify what kind of tools we can use to help with sleep and to correct things and to give you a truer understanding of whether you're sleeping or not. So, another big thing that affects energy is disease processes like blood dysregulation. So, diabetics will have a lot of trouble with energy, and understanding how to moderate that in your diet. So for example, if you have sugar, it's going to spike and then it's going to kind of drop down. And so we really want more of a even keel of our blood sugar in order to feel energy. And that can happen when those drop downs are hypoglycemic, right? And so there are patients who tend to be more hypoglycemic all the time. And if you do their A1C, which is a measure of your blood sugar that lasts about 3 or 4 months, it will tell you that it's way on the lower end. So something that can really help with blood sugar regulation is protein. Getting protein in as your first bite for every meal. So that would be nuts, that would be meat, eggs, cheese, if you choose. Lentils can be a good protein source, and that will help with whatever else you're eating and just help to even things out. Excuse me. So I think that disease processes like blood sugar regulation can be an important part. I also think that hypothyroidism plays a big role in patients feeling fatigue. And sometimes docs will just look at numbers, but there's a bigger picture to look at as far as your symptoms, your subclinical symptoms, we would call them. And sometimes they're not doing enough labs to really identify what's going on. So for example, some of you may have heard of TPO, this test for Hashimoto's. If you have been tested for that, usually you're not tested again because we don't know how to treat it. But treating Hashimoto's properly does really help to improve energy and just overall symptoms that come with thyroidism. So being hypothyroid is one thing. You can be hypothyroid as well as have Hashimoto's, or you can have Hashimoto's and not have hypothyroid, but it still needs to be treated. And a lot of patients complain about energy. Excuse me, I'm just going to take a minute and take a drink.
By the way, while you're doing that, just so everybody knows, the Q&A is open if you want to ask questions. Um, the just you should see it there. Just go ahead and pop your questions in. Um, Testing, by the way, I don't want to get you off track.
Oh, you're
Um,
fine.
that we do not at Caring Sunshine, do we have a test that works for that?
We don't. That's
You,
something that often your insurance doc will cover. And cash price, as far as the TPOs alone, that runs about $40 at LabCorp. So it's not unachievable if the doc is not willing to run it. But most docs are willing to run it. It's the
is,
monitoring because they don't see any reason to monitor it. They don't expect it to get better, so they're not going to retest it.
Okay. And then the thyroid disease you're mentioning, sorry, I'm very interested. The thyroid disease you just mentioned that the Japanese was a Japanese name?
Hashimoto's, yeah.
Hashimoto's.
A
Um,
Japanese name. I don't know if it is Japanese.
I don't know, I'm
Reminds
not
me of
sure.
another.
Okay. So you mentioned did you mention that we don't know how to treat that? But
We do, but most docs don't.
okay.
Yeah, we
How
do. It's very treatable. I see it completely go away.
oh really? How do you
Yeah.
treat it?
Um, a lot of supplementation, looking at food intolerances. Yeah, and smoldering infection. So what Hashimoto's is it is a cascade of your immune system trying to attack your thyroid and remove it. And so your body is freaking out about your thyroid, and we have to figure out why and reverse the process and make your body feel safe that, oh, the thyroid can stay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Keep going. Sorry.
And so sometimes we also see other antibodies alongside, like anti-thyroglobulin and TSI. So we do sometimes see other antibodies alongside the same ones that we test for Graves, which is the opposite of hypothyroid. It's hyperthyroid. So,
Okay.
yeah. Okay. So yeah, thyroid, big deal when it comes to energy. I would say most, everybody who has thyroid complains about, everybody has hypothyroid, whether it's Hashimoto's or just a regular hypothyroid. One of their main symptoms they're going to complain about is fatigue. Yeah. So it's big on the radar. Like, I mean, might as well rule it out, treat it, take care of it if it's a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. And then nutrient deficiencies. Nutrient deficiencies are big for energy. I mean, if you don't have enough iron to make your blood cells to carry oxygen around your body, you need oxygen to get energy. So that's a big deal. So anemias can come in several different forms. They can be B12, they can be iron, they can be folate. So all anemias will cause fatigue, some more than others. And after a patient's been treated for anemia, they can start to kind of associate the type of fatigue that they're feeling, whether it's fatigue in their head of trying to process things, or fatigue in their muscles, or just a generalized fatigue. They will start to associate that specific sensation of fatigue with the iron anemia when they have forgotten to reorder their iron supplements. So, and they think, oh, I'm good. But the other thing is, docs will treat iron anemia by giving them a high dose iron supplement for a certain amount of time, and then they're done. Well, that doesn't solve the problem if you if you're not getting iron, you know? So we can maintain it sometimes by doing iron skillet and more red meat, those kind of things, and higher content iron foods like, raisins and molasses and so forth. Yeah. And then vitamin B12 is very associated with fatigue. Vitamin D is also associated with fatigue. Neurotransmitters can sometimes be associated with fatigue and depression, and just like that crushing fatigue that's just can't move forward, not motivated. That can be a nutrient deficiency as far as getting what you need to make your neurotransmitters. So that would be all those amino acids that we find. So let's see. Um, Chronic stress, of course, we talked about that. It just really taxes the nervous system, and the nervous system just gets tired of trying to rise to the occasion. We're designed to deal with stress and figure it out and resolve it, not just constantly be under it. And there's a really good book about this. It's called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. And the precedent is it talks about how we are not designed to run or fight for a long period of time, for a short period of time. Either the zebra dies or it doesn't, and then you move on with your life. But we tend to be running from the stress or fighting the stress chronically, and that can have a real deep effect on our nervous system. And our nervous system just decides to protect us, that it's got to like slow us down, and that's the fatigue that will set in. So the other thing that can be a real big stressor on the body is chronic infections, just smoldering infections that are just high enough to cause a problem, but not to be detected or real clear. Sometimes we can see it in the blood work where we see neutrophils going up and lymphocytes going down. Yeah, but they're hard to identify, and that's when stool panels can come in real handy. Some really interesting more thorough blood work, sometimes looking for viral infections, sometimes Lyme disease. Those smoldering infections are just taking up all the resources, including our enzymes for digestion. So often these people have trouble digesting food because digestive enzymes are so they're so versatile that not only do we use them for food, but we chase after inflammation with them to digest it, and a lot of inflammation from bugs, from infections. So, yeah, so a lot of patients with smoldering infections will have some sort of digestive complaint, or it's been going on so long that their belly is putting off little opioid signaling, and they don't feel it like they used to have it, and then now their belly is, they don't notice anything, but they can't eat big meals or whatever. So as far as making the energy, I like to always just make sure that patients have the basics for making the energy, even if they're using it all up. We want to make sure that they get the basics. And so the energy that we make, that our body recognizes, is called ATP. And so that's made in a biochemistry cycle all throughout our body. Remember back to high school, the Krebs cycle, which is also called the citric cycle now, and they have another name for it. Well, those put off ATP on different sections, and they need help moving to the next level. So they need what we call cofactors. So in other words, they just need some tools to use to go from one precursor to the next one. And so I like to make sure that those tools are covered. So those tools generally are zinc and magnesium and your Bs. So those are the basics for that Krebs cycle. So we want
What,
to make
what,
sure that those are covered.
what was the third one after magnesium?
Um, B's, B complex. So
Oh,
like
B
your
complex. Okay,
B1, your B2, your B3, your B5,
okay.
your B6, your B9, and your B12.
One
Yeah,
quick
and
question on
B9's
B12.
folate.
Okay, I was wondering about when people talk about B12, traditionally in our industry, at least they say that sublingual is the best or only way really for your body to absorb. Is that true or not?
Yeah, so I really strive for methylcobalamin because most patients need those methyl groups. Methyl groups help to attach onto a molecule and detach to a molecule in order to go through different layers of water layers and fat layers throughout your body. And so those methyl groups are often needed, extra needed. And some people will get their B12 checked and they'll be fine, but that's not a great test. That's not a great test to actually see. And we see in the research that high B12 levels don't really correlate with any disease process. So MMA is actually a really good uh, measurement for B12 to see if we're getting enough in. And the other thing is 40% of the population has a methylation defect called MTHFR or methylene transferase reductase enzyme deficiency. And if we have that, we can't utilize other forms of B12 very well. We need the methyl B12. So with that being said, there are a small portion of the population that don't do well on methyl. They need adeno or hydroxy. I definitely stay away from the cyano. If you recognize cyanide, it's kind of really difficult for the liver to break down. It's more of a toxic attachment to the B12. So, but in the majority of cases, patients do really well with B12. They might have a little aggravation at first if they're not used to it, but that usually calms down. So, yeah, B12 is great for vegans too, really important.
So zinc, magnesium, B12, these are precursors
And
for
all the Bs.
okay, right. Sorry, yeah, all the B's.
Yeah.
One quick question on this. Magnesium on an empty stomach, somebody asked. Is it okay? No
Most
problem?
people don't have any trouble with that. Yeah, some people might be more sensitive. The oxide, you definitely want to take with something if you're taking the oxide. And really, the biggest use for the oxide is if you're super constipated and we can't get traction on it with other tools. So that will definitely cause irritation to the stomach. And a citrate alone also can. I usually use blends. I like a little bit of malate. It helps to break down stress hormones. It plugs into the machinery that breaks down the stress hormones. I like the malate and the citrate. Glycinate's great for the heart. Citrate really makes the other ones work better. And then the L-threonate is the one that I used across the blood-brain barrier, and the L-threonate is fantastic for any mental health disorders.
So that's a whole new topic, right? That's already probably a big discussion.
Yes,
Is the
yeah.
whole different forms, malate, citrate, which, as you said, is the hardest. That's the hardest on the stomach, correct?
The
Um,
oxide is
okay,
the hardest. Yeah. And then citrate, I would say if it's alone, it's the second hardest. But plenty of people take it right before bedtime or in the evening without food. So some people are sensitive, you know.
okay. Another person asked. Questions are sort of popping in on this, so it sort of hit a nerve or a stomach, I suppose. Somebody else says that vitamin B complex can be heavy on the bladder, actually. Do you know about, is that something you've heard as well?
About on the bladder, but it'll definitely be hard on the stomach. So if they're talking about peeing colors, I mean, the B2 does have some color to it, so it's always a nice trick to play on your friends at a party game. Put a little B2 in their fluid, and then they get a little red urine later.
Who
But
does this at a party? Well, okay, I won't ask. Doctors, I suppose. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to jump in there. Okay. Ada said I'm glad you came back with that because we were wondering what you meant by heavy on the bladder. She said frequent urination. Is
frequent
that
urination. Well, some people may be more sensitive to things, but it seems like there's something else going on there. There's another etiology. So, because in a mass amount of people that take B complex, they're not going to have that symptom. So, yeah, I don't know. It seems like they're either sensitive or there's something else going on.
okay? And Ada, I'm just gonna let's see. I can't remember.
It can be hard on the stomach. This is one that you really want to take with food.
Because of the questions you asked, and you asked another question, if you haven't talked to Dr. Shannyn, set up an appointment with her because you have to. Obviously, it's interesting that you said there's something else going on because I see your other question as well, and you were asking about two other products being hard on the stomach. So maybe, and I want to say that everybody, I forgot to say that up front. You don't have to just, this is great, but feel free to set up a specialized free no
Yeah,
sales
absolutely.
appointment with Dr. Shannon. It's a free service that we have for our customers. And I think what she's saying is, Ada in particular, maybe you should come talk to her because there may be something else going on. That,
Yeah, something else. Yeah.
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 Because you did ask about a couple other things, adrenal complex and so on. So I saw
Mhm.
that. Okay. And then I saw somebody else raise their hand. Feel free to ask a question in the Q&A. All right, go ahead. Sorry to distract. You were on
No,
ADP.
that's
You had just
I
got
think
through those three.
Yeah, I think I want to talk about the mitochondria just a little bit because that's a big part of it. That's the energy part of the cell. And so we want to make sure it's working well. And it can really have a lot of trouble. It can be an overtime, and just be exhausted and trying to make um, energy parts for the body. And so supporting it, we can do that with NAC. That's a popular thing to do. We often do that with patients who have some sort of chronic illness that they're just really trying to get over. And then glutathione is something that patients will use it's something big that we used for pneumonia, for any type of chronic infection that we're really just having a hard time getting over. I don't really like to use glutathione for a long period of time. I really want to encourage the cells to make glutathione themselves, but there are certain situations where we do. And glutathione is one of those tricky supplements that sometimes liquid works better for a patient. Other times a capsule works better for a patient. And then sometimes a suppository works better. So everybody's a little bit unique. We don't see the same results from glutathione across the board. It's really interesting. It's one of those unique supplements. But I did want to mention it because glutathione does come up a lot when we're talking about energy. Yeah, I'm happy to answer questions. Oh,
Okay.
so I did ask about energy drinks. Um,
Yeah, that's a popular thing. The
yeah,
question is, do energy drinks, and she put energy in quotations. Um, in other words, I don't know if she's referring to drinks that are full of caffeine or other stimulants.
yeah, caffeine. Yeah,
Yeah. The question is, do energy drinks really help? And if so, which ones would be best?
yeah. I can't say that I'm an expert on energy drinks, but and probably don't want to drop brand names too much, but I will say that there are a few on the market that have bees and or botanicals like rhodiola, those kind of things, yerba mate. Those are things that are definitely more tolerated by the body. We do see that hydroxycobalamin and cyanocobalamin are used primarily in those drinks, not methyl. Occasionally you'll find methyl. The cyano, I'm always really cautious on energy drinks with a patient that I suspect might have that methylation defect because it can definitely aggravate them. But if we know for sure that they're not aggravated by it, they're not, or we're not suspecting MTHFR, then I might say, yeah, sometimes the caffeinated ones, I mean, they're not really going to help long term with energy. Caffeine is great when it comes to chronic pain. Um, caffeine and magnesium are right up there with opioids controlling pain, so really helpful with pain, but not so much with leveling out energy because it's asking your adrenals to spit out hormones and cortisol, and eventually your adrenals get tired. So chronic caffeine can really cause a hiccup there. So now when we're measuring the adrenals, we usually do 4 different points throughout the day. So we kind of see what the curve of the adrenals are. And we try not to do it when we're stressed out because you'll put out a little bit more when you're stressed out. So this test generally is a saliva test. And we don't want people driving on the freeway when they're collecting their saliva because we will see points go way up and out of range. So that's something a lot of patients are curious about, like, do I have adrenal fatigue? They just want something to look at so they can work on it and compare and see if things got better. So that is something that they can do. It's a saliva test. There is also a cortisol blood test that patients get at their docs, and that's one draw. It's a shot in the dark, and we don't really know what it looks like in the actual tissues. And so that's where the saliva can come in handy.
Question on to step back for just a second. So let's go back to the
Yeah.
energy drinks. So I think what I hear you say is energy drinks is a cheap, it's like a cheap hit. It's not long lasting. Obviously, you may get a quick boost from caffeine. You were mentioning, for example, the different forms of B12 that are often in there. They're going to have B vitamins, but they're not the high quality. It's not methyl. It's going to be the psycho, which I can't even say, but I know it's an inferior form
Yeah.
of the. So that's what you're getting at. It's more of the energy drinks that you see out there, the various stuff is quick hit. You see a benefit, but it's cheap and it's short term, and it may create bigger problems down the road. Is that fair?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would save that for acute issues. You really got to perform for your job. You really have, you're gonna get up and speak. You're gonna, you're at the hospital, those kind of situations. You're caregiving, you have to drive a long trip, there's reasons to use it, but definitely not a regular, it's not sustainable, it's just not sustainable. So there are, like I said, there are some energy drinks out there that have just the bees, and they have some botanicals that are really loving to the adrenals, like rhodiola and ashwagandha, and there's a number of them.
So will B vitamins give you a quick hit, or is that more of a long term? Is it something you have to do for a
It's
while?
both. Like a lot of patients find that B12 alone will give them good energy after just, 3 or 4 days. And then B complex, yeah, I mean, if you go days without it and you take it, you'll notice, oh yeah, I'm at my best. Yeah.
So if we were talking about this from, by the way, this is a Nature Sunshine thing. If we were talking about from a Nature Sunshine perspective, for anybody that's interested, Brain Edge is the product. Brain Edge has yerba mate, which has natural caffeine in it. To be very honest, I'm always sort of on the fence on this because it's a natural caffeine. So you get a quick pick me up on that product, but it also has the good stuff, rhodiola, B vitamins as well. So a lot of people do. I mean, yerba mate is very popular right now,
Hmm.
but I sort of wondered if it wasn't because um, of the fact that you get a quick hit from the caffeine in it, because it is very similar in caffeine to coffee. Any
Yeah, I
thoughts on
mean,
that?
yerba mate is considered a healthier way of doing it. And, um, I think uh, there's lots of things to say about caffeine. People are, talk negative about it. Some people talk positive about it. I would say, definitely know your limits. And caffeine can cause things like, palpitations and a number of different things. We certainly don't want to exceed that threshold for long periods of time, because then your body becomes even more sensitive to it. So then even smaller amounts will cause those kind of things. So we want to create tools that you can use instead. But if you're having, one caffeine serving, then we know that your body's used to that and it's going to level out. It's kind of the same situation where people go off coffee cold turkey and they're going to have headaches because it's a withdrawal. So I think keeping that in mind, not underestimating the caffeine that's in the yerba mate, so you're not scratching your head trying to figure out why do I have a headache? Yeah.
So it's interesting. So you're not obviously not anti-caffeine. I'm not either. I drink coffee if
Nope.
anybody cares, which you shouldn't care because I'm no way.
I
What
mean,
do I know?
clean coffee. I mean, the
Yeah,
research on clean coffee and is there, it's highly antioxidant.
yeah, and
So
that's why. Yeah, so it's not like caffeine is just absolutely a bad thing.
there's worse things
Yeah,
we can do.
yeah. Um, so is caffeine is a stimulant, which it's also a stimulant, right? I mean, it's a
Hmm. Yeah.
stimulant. In the end of the day, it's a stimulant. It's one way to boost energy, maybe just not a long lasting. You could argue there's better ways.
Yeah, and you gotta know your limits. And you have to, you have to take some you have to take some time to heal too. I mean, you shouldn't be working 7 days a week. You just gotta be wise about where you're gonna spend your energy.
Okay. So that's the thoughts on energy drinks, but there's clearly some that are not good.
Yes, there
And we,
are.
yeah, I mean, without naming names, look at the ingredients. Um, if the stimulant is cane sugar, maybe not so much. Uh,
Yeah. No, you're
it,
gonna have a high and then you're gonna have,
yeah.
yeah.
Let's talk about protein in regards to this. You mentioned earlier that protein was really important to start the day. So I'm curious if you build on that. What's the benefit of protein today? And then also maybe talk about the protein craze that we're in. Are we overdoing it? Because as you know, the world is running out of
Yeah.
protein because people are throwing coke proteins and everything now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, so we want to make sure that we're getting healthy proteins, for sure. I definitely am concerned about patients who are overdoing the whey. I'm a small practitioner and I have seen 3 cases of kidney failure that seem to be related to that. And so that's very scary to me. So I'm skeptical about the fake protein. Um, Different people need different things. Blood type wise, the blood type diet I think can be really helpful in guiding how much protein somebody needs. Patients with AB blood type don't need hardly any. Patients with O need a lot, and so they're more likely to do a lot better on high protein meals with meat and so forth. So protein just really helps stabilize the blood sugar. And I think we still want to make sure that we're getting all of our antioxidants with veggies and fruits and all of that. So protein plays a source, it plays a role, and I would say probably for most people, it plays, a fourth of the plate being protein for every meal is really helpful. And then in between, if you're going to eat an apple, then eat, a handful of nuts alongside and just get that protein in so we can keep those sugars, even.
Okay. And
Yeah, and there's lots of proteins out there. Pea protein is one of the alternatives, but in moderation.
okay. And Latanya is asking about caffeine alternatives. And you mentioned the B vitamins.
Yeah.
Um, and then
Adrenal Adrenal botanicals. I really like there's combos for adrenal support that can often be really good for caffeine. Again, like I'm not totally against caffeine. I'm definitely into mushrooms with your caffeine. I see a great role in mushrooms. I think that helps our immune system develop the cells that it needs to protect us. I'm not sure that I can say that I've seen research directly connected to energy with mushrooms, but mushrooms and coffee the medicinal mushrooms seem to be a big thing in coffee.
you're not in favor of that? Or,
I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
okay.
If
Uh,
patients can tolerate it, sometimes patients can't. There's also hot chocolate. There's an amazing hot chocolate out there with that's dairy free. That can be hard to find. That has a little bit of mushrooms. Yeah.
I haven't tried. I mean, it's obviously that's very popular now. The coffee replacements that are made out of mushrooms. I think mud water is one of them.
Yeah,
Um,
that's yep, that's
yeah.
one. Hmm.
Um, I'm scared of that. I've had sometimes companies will send me those samples, and I'm scared only because of the taste. I'm a little
Oh,
bit of a snob. Um,
so Ohm is another one, OM,
OM, okay.
and they have the most amazing hot chocolate I've ever found that's dairy free.
Oh, really? Is it mushroom based?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
OM. So Latanya, you're asking about that. So is it a particular mushroom in particular, or is it a wide range?
It's a blend, so it has some reishi in it and Ganoderma and a few other things. Might have turkey tail in it. And these are all things that we're finding are kind of um, really stimulating our B cells, which help with long-term immunity, our T cells, which also help with long-term immunity, and then also our cells that are immune cells that recognize things for new infections that we've never encountered. So they're what we call our natural killer cells. So those are really helpful to keep up and regulated. They help to regulate cancer cells. They help us address infections that we encounter. So, yeah, it's about the
Oh,
immune system.
I want to talk about lifestyle in just a second, but I want to make sure I'm trying to give people actionable things on diet.
Uh-huh.
And so there's a few takeaways. One is mitochondria, you mentioned in particular, zinc, magnesium, and B
Mhm.
vitamins. Um, you mentioned a lot of the things, but would you say outside that particular stack? Oh, iron, obviously, iron was a big one. Um,
If needed, you don't want to take iron if your iron's high.
okay, so do an iron test first. Is there anything else that, when we're speaking of energy in particular, other things that are really part of the stack, nutrient stack, that maybe you need to supplement? Do you have anything else?
Yeah, so I think a multi is a good idea. And once we start hitting the age of 50, we need something that's more robust, not just the multis that have the vitamins in it, but we need something that's more robust and has some of the other little minerals and so forth, like molybdenum and vanadium and things that help with detox pathways because our liver starts to get a little older, it has a little trouble. And so providing some of those nutrients can really help the body eliminate properly. That can really help with energy, just making sure that detox pathways are supported so that they can get things out of the body. And then these vitamins for 50 plus are things that have botanicals and other nutrients that will help protect the eyes and the brain and the heart and the joints. So those are all things that are really important to get ahead of. We see more and more retinal detachments and glaucoma. Those are eye conditions that are very debilitating. And so we want to get on top of it. I mean, we're seeing 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds with this. We never saw that until patients got into their late 60s, 70s, but now we're seeing it earlier. And so we really want to get on top of those possible nutrient deficiencies to help protect patients.
Okay, and then how about the aminos? And also, well,
Amino
carnitine,
acids. Yeah.
creatine, taurine. What do you think?
Yeah, amino acids we should really be getting from our food.
Okay.
It's rare that we want to supplement it. There are situations we want to be careful because we can kind of go overboard on it too. So I'm cautious about amino acids. We don't want to throw off the balance. And then what was the
Well, creatine
oh,
in particular.
creatine? Yeah, creatine people are taking because they want to build muscle, and so. Um, We just got to keep an eye on that. I mean, if they're taking it, I would encourage them to do a comp metabolic every 3 months. But even then, we don't know how the body's processing it. So I'm cautious about the creatinine. It's hard to filter through the liver. So if I'm sorry, through the kidney. So if you're getting too much, you can tax the kidney. We don't, it gets gummy in there. And so we don't want that. And some are more susceptible than others. So, but I think the jury's still out on who.
Okay, and then let's see. By the way, just to go back and pick up a couple things,
Mhm.
Latanya, you asked about brands of coffee. I don't know if you caught it. She mentioned one before or after you put this question in. OM. And then Leany says four sigmatic. So that's four, spell out four, Four, and then Sigmatic is Sigmatic. That sounds like a gun, Leanie. Sigmatic, four Sigmatic, and she says the Rishi organic cocoa is amazing.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
Latanya is also asking about collagen. Thoughts on collagen in regards to energy?
Collagen. I can't say that I've seen a big shift with collagen and energy. GI issues, if we're healing post-surgery, if we are healing post, bone break, if we're trying to improve skin, sometimes the body just breaks it down too fast. And sometimes if the enzymes aren't there, it is actually harder for the body to break down, so it can actually bog people down. So I don't see a real connection to collagen and energy. I mean, some people do, and I think it's more because it's helping to relieve other um, pathways that, uh, for example, digestive enzymes, like we talked about, if we're using digestive enzymes for inflammation, and then we start taking collagen, the collagen can start doing repair, so there's not as much inflammation, and the digestive enzymes can go back to digesting. But I just don't see it. I don't know, other practitioners might see it. And collagen also comes in some caffeine mix. There's caffeine in some of the collagen mixes too. So we want to make sure that we're not interpreting an improvement from collagen when it's actually like other vitamins or caffeine or something like that.
Okay. And then, yeah, collagen was, I'm not, collagen was really, really popular for a while, and people started mixing everything in the world
Yeah,
into it.
yeah.
Sort of dropped off. These
Yeah,
things come and go.
I'm not real fond of collagen.
Yeah.
For the general public because I feel like it can be confusing for the GI tract, especially if patients have leaky gut, then it can get out into the bloodstream and the body might think that it's an intruder, especially if you're taking it daily, and then they might think that your collagen could be an intruder as well. And so there is a possible potentiation toward an autoimmune disease. Maybe not, it would take a very long time, but there is a concern or a theory about that. So,
Okay. I have two big topics I want to talk about. But before I do, I want to mention, Liz, if you're on, you asked about kidney activator. My guess is that Dr. Shannyn may not be familiar with that formula. So I may take that offline and get back to you on that. If that's okay. Do you know, Shannyn, do you know that product at all, kidney activator?
which
She's asking why she feels better with more energy after taking kidney activator.
Oh, kidney activator. I think that has some botanicals in it. Yeah, so the
I could
botanicals.
give you the ingredients if you'd
Yeah,
like.
sure. Give me the
Okay, let
botanicals.
me just
But
tell you
I,
what's in
I
it.
think it has like Dong Quai in it and um yeah.
So when I say that she's not, Dr. Shannon doesn't sell for us, I mean it, guys. I don't just say that. She doesn't. So that's why I'm going to tell her the ingredients just so she knows. Because honestly, that's not the purpose of her being with us. It's okay. So yeah, it's all botanicals, astragalus, magnolia, cinnamon, ginger, tangerine, licorice root, peony root. It's a very herbal blend. Um,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so the licorice in there is going to help with energy for sure. That's an adrenal tonic. Hmm.
Yeah, Asian plantain. It's a
And then
very, there's about 30.
ashwagandha can do that too. So it's kind of some of what you described as an adrenal tonic. The magnolia really helps with mood. So it really helps with motivating your mood. So for patients who have a low mood, it's a good motivator. And peony is like a really nice balancing for the rest of them. Yeah.
Do you feel, you mentioned ashwagandha twice, which is
Yeah.
very, very, very popular here at Caring Sunshine everywhere, for a whole wide variety of things.
Mhm.
It's, and including energy. Um, is that a good, that seems to be like maybe a jack of all trades, if
It
almost like a
is,
short list.
I'm not, I don't, like to propose anything as a snake oil, but ashwagandha is pretty good. I mean, it is an immune modulator. It helps with sleep. It helps with energy. It helps, there's so many things it helps with. And we've used it for so long that we understand it really well. Yeah. I do want to say one thing about licorice. Licorice alone, there's two forms of licorice. There's licorice with glycyrrhiza, okay, and it's super yummy. And then there is deglycerized licorice. And so deglycerized licorice has its own purpose. But I want folks to know that if you take licorice, and you take it in higher doses, it can cause higher blood pressure. So anybody who has high blood pressure, we need to be really cautious about taking licorice. Like that's probably not a good choice for them. Licorice is a common product used, especially in Chinese herb formulations, to kind of blend everything together. This is great with tinctures because it tastes good. For most people, unless you don't like the taste of licorice, then it's, really awful. Um, so yeah, those are some things to know about licorice.
Okay. Um, so let's move on. I want to move on to moving off of nutrients and to talk lifestyle for a second.
Okay.
Um, you talked about sleep hygiene up front,
Uh-huh.
sleeping better. Big, obviously a big part of this. What are other things that people can do through the day to try to maintain um, a more steady level of energy throughout the day, dealing with low energy, especially with aging. Some people are asking with aging and just low energy. What are other things, whether exercise or whatever, what are things that you recommend from a lifestyle perspective outside of diet for people to do?
Yeah, so stress management is huge. And so just taking those mini breaks and looking out the window, having rituals throughout your day that you can build in, it lets your nervous system know that it's going to have that time because your nervous system really works well on routine. So if it knows that you're going to sit down and have a cup of tea, it can handle some of the stress that it's going through a little bit better because it knows the routine. It knows that this period of time is coming up. You can also just have a ritual where you are doing a puzzle, and that can be stress management for you. Building those little routines throughout your life when you can sneak them in, I think is really helpful. You can also, I think I hear a lot about patients just ruminating, like and ruminating means thinking about things that they can't really problem solve. So oftentimes those problems end up in the back of our mind. We kind of problem solve about them, and then later we kind of figure out what the answer is to it. It kind of comes to us. Some of us trust that process, some of us don't. Um, and so a lot of people tell me about the fact that, I ask, what do you fall right asleep? No, I don't fall right asleep. It takes me a long time. Okay, so what's going through your head? They're thinking about all these problems, and that's what we call ruminating, like, oh, well, just trying to, and are you able to solve it? No, no, I can't. So I encourage patients to come up with a dream list so they can think about something while they're falling asleep, but also if they're in a stressful situation, going to a CT or going to a family event sometimes, just having that dream list because it really can calm down your nervous system. So it could be a hobby, it could be baking. Oh, I'm going to make these cookies and I'm going to put this in it and that. And so start ruminating and obsessing about something that you really enjoy. It could be a craft. Oh, I love yarn and I'm going to, what about this thickness and this pattern and mixing these colors and what would happen and just thinking about it. And so having a few things on your dream list, whether it's a daydream list or your night list, it could be reading a story you're reading. What's going to happen in that story? Those are things that can be really helpful for calming your nervous system down and creating a pattern of not ruminating. So these are all stress management tools. There's a ton out there. There's also vagal nerve exercises with breathing exercises. There's vagal nerve stimulators. So those are all stress management too. I think hydration is really important. Our body really needs water and fluids in order to move things down river, so to speak. So if everything's dried up, you're going to have an accumulation of toxins in different places. So hydrating really puffs your organs up and allows things to move throughout your system. So those are probably some really important things that I see that patients are missing a lot. making sure you're breathing clean air, that can be important. Identify any types of toxins that you're being exposed to and how you might limit that. Yeah, those are all important lifestyle things. And, depending on the patient, we're able to come up with, specific tools for them. I'm happy to give folks ideas given their situation and what their challenges are.
So in stress, which I had never, it's a connection I had not made, but stress in general, stress management is a big, big key.
Yeah,
Um,
you use up so
to,
much energy. Yeah.
yeah.
And stress hormones are what you get energy from. So
So
if you're using them up, and you don't have any left, your body's trying to recycle them fast, then you're out, you know? And if you're just not able to make as many, or you're on a medication that is changing how it's made, then it's a challenge.
hmm. This is why I read a book recently, or I heard a podcast or something. Jeff Bezos, not condoning Jeff Bezos, owner of who founded Amazon, said that he takes an hour every day to what he calls putter, which means before he starts doing anything that really involves a lot of cerebral activity, he just putters around the house and sort of does nothing.
Yeah,
And
I love that.
yeah, that's something I adopted, and it makes a big difference in just the way I view life. It's a
Yeah.
happiness thing, the first
Some
hour of
people
the day.
putter in their garden, some
Yeah,
people putter with their crab, some people putter with their cats, some people putter around the neighborhood, some people putter in their workshop. Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, it's just something. But management is a big thing. And then obviously sleep is important. And then you mentioned hydration. How about movement? Movement. Talk about movement.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Movement. So movement is different for different people, especially if you have a challenge like arthritis or so forth. We find that in arthritic patients that if you are moving the same amount every day, that is ideal for them. Not less, not 5 minutes more. If you can build up, that's great. But if you are making big changes, you're going to have more pain, and that's going to affect your energy. So pain can be a big deal when it comes to energy. So, but yeah, I think moving those, flushing everything, flushing your blood, flushing your muscles by getting movement and different types of movement. Different things work for different people. I mean, we talk about yin and yang and different types of exercise that fit those categories. Also, it's, what life is like for you right now. You might be in a place in your life where it makes more sense to do a particular type of exercise versus others. With cardiac patients, we really want to get heart hours in. That's where you're getting your heart level up higher. Um, I find that yoga can be incredibly helpful for energy and stress relief at the same time. There's restorative yoga, a lot of people don't know about, which is a little bit slower. It's not as aggressive, but it can be just as effective. So finding something that you're willing to do, that you're inspired to do, I think moving's important. And again, it depends on your health situation, what we're trying to achieve, and what types of exercises we're going to choose.
Talk about I guess the big question I guess I would have at this point is because aging is a big deal for all of us. What is the effective energy as you age, and how can you counter it? What should you be doing for that?
To counter the effect of aging.
Well, how do you counter the effect of lack of energy, losing energy as you age? What should you be changing as you age um, from an
What
energy?
should you be changing as you age?
Is that question may not make any sense. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always trying to keep patients in their best health. So when they're getting into their 70s, we're looking at their susceptibilities. Is it your heart? Is it your joints? Is it your brain? What do we need to be most proactive about? Some patients can layer on a lot of things. Some patients can't. So we're just prioritizing what's going to give them the best quality of life. Um, yeah. So as far as aging, I mean, again, I like to see a good multi on board. I like to see fresh produce. I like to see clean air, which can be underestimated. I like to see green households where we're having low toxicity. I like to see that we're not spraying outside with pesticides if we don't absolutely have to. Um, those are all things that lower risk factors for all the things that affect quality of life and energy. So we don't want to overtax our detox pathways, and eventually cause a backup and cause problems.
Okay. And then, by the way, I want to hit a few things people are asking here as we close here. Um, Ada, you asked about super supplemental. You asked if it's a better one, if there's a better one. Super supplemental is our best multivitamin. One thing I will say about that is it's offered with iron, without iron. So I think Dr. I won't speak for her, but I think she would say you should do a test to figure out whether you should do the with
Yeah, it
iron
depends on
version.
your needs too. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, I have some patients on, different quality supplements. I don't know, do you want me to mention
sure.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, somebody asked about calcium. Calcium is always an important thing to add in, but I really like to test the calcium in your comp metabolic. The more comprehensive test will test calcium. That'll tell us if you need it. We don't want you to take too much if you don't, because it'll harden your arteries. We'll also know if you have deficiencies, and some multis have iron, some multis don't. Some multis have copper, some multis don't. So they can get really detailed, but in general, I like Phyto Multi by I think that one's by Metagenics.
okay.
Also, a small company called NBI has a really good product called Supreme Multi, which is a really good basic for the younger generation. And then there's also one that's called Senior Symmetry. Sometimes they have a hard time sourcing. So that's another problem that we have with the good multis is sometimes they just have trouble sourcing things. And so they will be on back order for a little while. So oftentimes we'll alternate back and forth for patients, not only for that reason, but to make sure that they get a little bit of every of the different formulations of things that are in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, um,
Oh,
so
Primal Multi is another one.
I'm sorry,
Primal Multi
primal
is
multi.
another one, which I believe is by Designs for Health, I believe.
Okay. And by the way, guys, if you Metagenics in particular, we sell on our sister site Vitabase, which we'll be talking about more coming up.
Same with
Um,
Designs for Health. Yeah.
and Designs for Health. We actually sell Nature Sunshine, obviously our only brand on Caring Sunshine, but on Vitabase we sell Designs for Health, Metagenics, Integrative Therapeutics, Pure Encapsulations, all very high-end brands. We'll be talking about that more in the future.
Yeah.
The question about calcium again, is calcium important for energy or just overall health, bone health, and so on?
Calcium for energy. I mean, we tend to recycle our calcium. So I mean, I've never had a patient sit in front of me and say, Dr. Shannyn, when I started taking my calcium, my energy got amazing,
Okay.
or got better. I can't say that I've heard that.
Okay. So Winnie, that's that. You asked that one. Let's
Yeah, I
see.
do have patients that sit in front of me and they say, Dr. Shannyn, I started my B12, I started my iron, I started my multi, I started my B complex, I started my glutathione, I started my antivirals, and I feel amazing. Like I have energy now. So those are things that I know are very connected.
Okay. Good. Well, guys, and then the K66, I don't know. Do you recognize the name K66 ashwagandha?
Um,
It's either a form, it
yeah,
looks like
that's a strain.
okay,
Yeah,
so
that's a particular strain that has more science references to it. So yeah.
KSM, I guess it's probably what she means, KSM-66.
Yeah,
Um,
I can't say that
yeah,
it's been a while since I've looked at that or thought about it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know it either. We don't sell it, I know that. Well, guys, thanks much. It's been an hour, and we really appreciate you joining us. Thanks, Dr. Shannon, for jumping on. Everybody's busy. I know you guys are busy, but thanks for joining along. And let us know again if you have other questions. Feel free to set up an appointment. You can do that right at caringsunshine.com. And otherwise, we'll see y'all next time. Have a great
All
day.
right. Sounds great. Have a great
Thanks.
energy evening.
All right, we'll see you.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.